known by Casmalia, and she has been up to some great things lately. And we're here to talk about that and help you get to know one of these up and coming artists a little more. So first off, thank you for being here. I know we appreciate it. I know your fans appreciate it.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, that kind of thing, where you're from.
Cool. So my name is Shannon. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia. I spent 20 years of my life growing up in Georgia. I did a lot of classical music stuff, so I learned to play the piano when I was 6 years old. I started singing opera when I was 13.
Wow.
And so I was very involved in like the classical music scene. And then like as I got older, I kind of aged out of that. I wasn't like really interested in it that much as a teen. And then I discovered electronic music when I turned 18. I just had some friends that were listening to it, and I was like, what is this? And then I remember I was 20 years old when Skrillex came out with I was 19. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just aged myself. When he came out with Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites, and I think that was the first release that really got me like interested in electronic music as a whole. And he came to Atlanta actually a week after I first heard that record. And I don't even know how I managed to get into this club because I was underage, but
Yeah.
I ended up meeting him, and he was such an amazing, nice person.
Cool.
Yeah, and I was like, well, what do you use to make music? And he was like, Ableton. And I went home and I think I pirated Ableton 8 that same night.
Yeah.
So I moved to San Diego. I've been living in California for 10 years now, San Diego for 8.
Mm-hmm.
I went to college out here and I just never left. And now my whole scene is out here. All my friends are here. And I don't have any plans to move anytime.
Yeah. So you've been up to some really big things. I know you just played a festival or a fashion show this past weekend. Is that correct?
That was Firefly that was in Dover, Delaware.
Okay.
And then the week before that was the fashion show. That was actually Gene Ferris gave me a call and asked me to play that fashion show because it's like a Ferris wheel expo fundraiser thing. It was like all local and female artists, designers. It was really great. I love it when I can be a part of any kind of event that showcases all the female talent that we have in our scene out here. There's so many amazing women involved in the music industry in San Diego, like not even just as DJs, but like as event organizers and fashion designers and all that. So it was really great to see all the talent that was there.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you said Firefly. What are some of the other festivals that you played recently?
So I played Firefly. I played Dance Festopia. That's like an hour and a half south of Kansas City. I love that festival. That was incredible.
I think that one is good.
Yeah, so Seven Lions curated the Ophelia Records stage, and so I was on that stage with like Jem and Tari and Kendall. And then the very next day, I actually had to be back in Southern California for Same But Different Festival, which is in Lake Paris, which is like, 2 hours north of here. And then I also I did Coachella earlier in the year. That was tons of fun. It's been, and I'm doing Groove Cruise later this month, so I'm really excited about that.
You've been like skyrocketing, seriously. So many festivals coming up. That is awesome. So you recently released a couple tracks. You've got Tethered and Makes Sense. And then you have some new stuff. Can you tell us about your new stuff?
So my upcoming release is coming out, I believe, in 3 weeks now. Almost exactly 3 weeks from today. Almost. I think it's like 3 weeks. But that song is called Escape From You. So this track originally was just a track that I had made. I sang it live at Coachella. I don't know if anyone remembers me singing that track there. But I ended up teaming up with a guy named Sean Lafayette. He was introduced to me by one of the A&Rs of Insomniac, actually. And we just started working on it together and see if we could make something that was, a little bit more like melodic. And came up with it. It's very different from my usual style, but I think people are really gonna like it, and it still does fit well into my sets, actually. I've been out at all these festivals, and the crowd response has been amazing. But it's definitely more on, it's closer to Tethered than it is Makes Sense, definitely.
Awesome. What was your favorite thing about making that Escape from You? Sorry.
So my favorite thing was honestly just the vocal part of it. I actually made a little breakdown, like a track breakdown with Sean. We're going to be releasing it in the next couple weeks or so. But the way I treated my vocals on this track and the way I let them kind of like take center stage at the drop, something I haven't done before. Like I'll usually have my vocals in the break, or I'll have them in the build up, or like right at the drop, but I actually have them going all the way throughout. And then I also pitch shifted my vocals down, which is something I've always like tried to do, but I could never get it sounding just right. But I think I nailed it on this track, so I'm really excited for everyone to hear that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So a couple questions about what influenced you to become a musician. So what was the first album that you got, and why did you go for that one?
Gosh, probably In Rainbows by Radiohead. I remember my cousin who lives in Seattle, she had In Rainbows posters and like all kinds of Radiohead stuff all over her walls. So whenever I would go there when I was growing up, I was like, my cousin is really cool, so I bet this music is also really cool. And I do it. And Radiohead is actually still one of my favorite bands to this day. I mean, they were so ahead of their time that even if they were to release that album today, it would still be ahead of its time. They just redefined what it meant to be a band, and that's super inspiring for me.
Yeah. What was one of the first, you mentioned Skrillex, but what was the first festival you ever went to?
Oh my gosh, that would be Bonnaroo! Bonnaroo 2011. Oh my goodness, that was so much fun. I mean, like, official festival, I think I've been to like a couple like little camp outs, and I can't, those people, those party companies don't even exist anymore. This was like 10, 12 years ago in like North Georgia or something. But Bonnaroo, oh, I remember how amazing that was. The Beach Boys were headlining, and I was like, are these still live? It's actually an amazing show. Skrillex was playing too. I just remember just being in like surrounded by all these tents and like being so overwhelmed by the amount of people that were there. I still get really overwhelmed at festivals, but I think that was the most overwhelming I ever had felt.
I totally understand that. So next, what is one thing that you feel is unique about you, or that people don't know about you?
So unique as far as like me in the scene would be I sing live in my sets. Not all the time. I don't always have the opportunity to do so, either because of the stage setup or time constraints to a sound check. But whenever possible, I do like to sing in my sets. And I introducing any kind of live component into your set really draws fans in, and it makes it more of an intimate experience too, because you're not just playing something that you worked and polished on in the studio. You're doing something live and in the moment, so everyone like be like, oh wow, she's singing right now. Like that's,
you know, we see that at EDM stuff.
Yeah, I know does that, and Annabelle England does that. But I try and do it as often as possible. And then something like random, like not related to music that I do. I love to do all kinds of outdoorsy stuff. I'm a very outdoorsy person. I ride a horse 3 times a week. I go fishing every so often. I love ATVs, and you know, I just love being outside.
That's awesome. If you could give your fans one piece of advice about their career, their life, or anything, what would it be?
Probably to take your mental health seriously, just as seriously as your physical health. I see a lot of people going on about, you know, how to stay healthy, you know, especially when you're going to festivals, and like how to eat healthy and stay hydrated and stuff like that. I'd say your mental health is just as important, if not more important, because mental health is physical health. So I would say don't be afraid to like check in or even seek the help of a professional if you need to. I've done that before, and I wouldn't be where I am in my career if I hadn't gotten, you know, that kind of support. So don't forget your mental health.
So what's next for you? Any big, you mentioned group careers, but any other singles, any other albums, festivals, that kind of thing?
I have 2 other singles that are coming out this winter. So I've got one coming out, I don't know if it's been announced yet, but I'm just gonna say it anyway. It's coming out on Ferris Wheel, which is Gene Ferris's label, and he actually got that release date moved up to November. I just got word of that. So That's a big one. That's a really heavy track. That's going to be more on the make sense side of a little bit heavier. And then I have a collab coming out with my friend Zoe. Her DJ name is Zoff. We're Groove Cruise in January together, and it's so funny because right before Groove Cruise, our track comes out, and that comes out on Noisy's label Techna. And then I'm also in the process of working on an EP for Nightbase. I really love working with them. They're one of my favorite labels I've released on. So hoping to, get some new tracks out with them. That might not be till early next year though.
Yeah, you were going to be busy then is what it sounds like.
Oh, I'm busy.
Well, that is all the time we have for today, but I know that you can check out Casmalia coming up on some of our weekly roundup feature, that kind of thing. She'll be featured on the Festival Voice coming up here pretty soon. But I know that we thank you at the Festival Voice, and I know your fans thank you too. So thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome.